Hey everyone, my name is Steve Gong, and today we're going to be learning how we can build a Discord bot using Discord Pi. This is going to be a very casual stream or casual workshop. So yeah, just sit back, relax, and enjoy. You can follow along if you want. But basically, I'll be building a Discord bot with you guys. I'm gonna put it on another server. And the first thing I'm going to do is actually give you guys a demo of how our Discord bot is going to look like. So right now we're using the Discord bot to track the attendance of the workshop. So if I just start up my Discord bot, let me just start it up. And now the first thing, the curious bot is online. And if I type .attendance, there we go. As you guys can see in the chat, the bot can track everyone in this room, and it returns your username and then your special number. So that's how we can keep track of it. And we're also going to be able to make the Discord bot join a voice channel and start playing a YouTube video and then play MP3. So that's the two things we're going to do with the Discord bot. There's plenty of other things you can do, but I just thought these two were like some really cool things. And that's what we're going to focus on. And I don't want to make this workshop like a 2-hour workshop. I think we're probably going to spend maybe 30 to 50 minutes. The code is honestly not that complicated, but we're going to learn some new concepts along the way. And I'm going to wrap up the entire Learnathon, since this is actually the last workshop of the entire month-long Learnathon. And since, it's perfect that I also organize the Learnathon, so I want to wrap up everything that we learned in this Learnathon, and then that's gonna be the end of the event. And then we'll have we still have a few prizes to give away, so we'll be picking some lucky winners again. Sounds good. Any questions so far? I don't see any, so let's go ahead and start. So the objective of this specific workshop, I just said it, but for the recording, I'm just gonna film the Discord Pi bot building part. So the objective is to learn how to build a Discord bot using Discord Pi, and then be comfortable building your own Discord bots. Pretty straightforward. So what you're gonna need is a computer, a solid internet connection, and excitement. Somebody check how many times he says Learnathon. Okay, so yeah, you guys can. I encourage you guys to follow along. But the first thing I want to go over is just give you guys a high-level overview of what Discord Pi is about. So I went on their website and I took, the definition of what is Discord Pi, and it says Discord Pi is a modern, easy to use, feature-rich, and async-ready API wrapper for Discord. So the modern, easy to use, feature-rich, these are pretty much some fancy words, but they don't mean anything. I think the interesting part is the async and the API wrapper, which some of you guys may not know. So I want to go over these two words first. The first thing I want to go over is how the API part. So how our code is going to work, and how it's going to interact with the server, and then how it's going to process the commands from users. So we're going to be coding inside of our computer. We're going to write some Python code, and we're going to use the Discord Pi library. So we're going to import Discord, and then we're going to run a bunch of code, and we're going to use a token, and that token is going to allow us to log in, just like how we log in with our username and password on a regular Discord account. So we're going to be able to log in, and then all the commands are like the server. We essentially we're going to start our own server on our computer, and then it's going to get passed to this Discord API, Discord server. And then what's going to happen is as users, we can write commands, and the Discord API is going to be able to detect the commands that's written by the users, and it's going to pass it back to our server. And then the logic part is where the code is basically going to handle logic part. So a very simple example is we can write some code that says if they you just tried to write dot attendance. I think you miswrote attendance, that's why. But let me just stop it because I don't want you guys to spam things. But it works if you guys write dot attendance in the chat. It works. So how about attendance is with an A. Dot help. Yes. Yeah. So dot help also works. Okay, you guys can stop. I mean, there's a few things that works. I wrote a few functions. You can do dot hello, and it's gonna type out hello. If you guys want to try that, dot disconnect. Well, okay. I'm just doing dot close, and now okay. I just closed the bot, so you guys can't mess with it anymore. So, but as I was saying, basically, when we write these commands, because we already started the server, like we started the server, we ran the code out on our computer. It was still running. It was actively listening to what we were saying, and once it detects something that it can react to, so a specific command, which we're going to learn, the Discord API handles that command, and it passes it to our code. And okay, I'm just sorry. I'm speaking in circles, but it handles that, and basically what you need to know is there's three parts, right? The users, this API, and then our code, our own server. Can we have a little dump channel in the future to spam the bot? Yes, you can. We'll figure something out, but that's not the focus. So this at a high level, just keep this in mind when we write the code. Really not complicated. And then the second part is the asynchronous part. So you saw this word async. Some of you may have never heard of it, but async is short for asynchronous. So there's asynchronous and then there's synchronous models. So in synchronous programming, things happen one at a time. So this means, let's say you have two lines of code. So let's say you have print hello world and then print hello whatever. In synchronous programming, the second line does not execute until the first line is finished executing. But in asynchronous programming, you can have multiple things happening at the same time. So even if the first line of code is not finished running, you can start the second line of code. The second line of code can start running. And this is especially useful because if we look at the diagram, things can run much faster. So if you look at here, see how this line is much longer than this one. So the time to run this command is much shorter. And for Discord Pi, this is actually really important because when you do certain commands, because there's like a certain latency because of your internet connections, things don't happen instantaneously. So there's going to be some lag. So then doesn't that mean async is always better than sync? I guess so, yes. But usually, like, async is a more advanced concept. And whenever you so even for myself, before this workshop, I really, really rarely used asynchronous. Like, I don't need to explicitly program asynchronously. But when you write code in Python, the default is always synchronous. There's only one thread, and everything that's it's ran as one line, like one single thread. If you want to run once you get more advanced, you can start looking into like multi-processing, and then asynchronous is slightly different. But if you want to do more advanced things, like asynchronous is better because you're gonna have shorter runtime. But you have to be careful on how you program it. But in Discord Pi, you're gonna see it's already written asynchronously. So all we have to do is write a few words beforehand to make sure that the code runs properly. So these are the two things that you need to know. And so let's get straight into the practical part. So I want to show you guys how I learned Discord Pi, which was a combination of basically video tutorials and looking at the documentation. So my first suggestion whenever you guys want to learn a new library is to go straight to the documentation page. So if you want to learn Discord Pi, I would just type into Google Discord Pi, and here we go, we have the documentation. and the documentation is going to give you all the information you need 99% of the time. In some cases, the documentation is really not well written. In the case of Discord Pi, actually, there's very little tutorials. So you have a bit of code here, a bit of code here, but the rest are just they're just blocks of information, and it's very difficult for a beginner to learn this. But there's some other documentation pages that are extremely well documented. For example, Xarray has a very comprehensive guide. So you have your terminology here, you can understand the data structures, you have the examples, and it's very comprehensive. And this is how I would learn a specific Python library. But even for Discord Pi, we're actually going to refer to it to get started. So if we look over here, there's an introduction. So the first thing we're going to do is installing it, right? So what I need you guys to do is if you haven't already, is to install Discord Pi on your computer. By now I assume all of you are relatively familiar with Python and you have an IDE installed. I'll be using PyCharm over here, and I just set up a folder. So we're going to be coding in that. So I'm on Windows, so the first thing I'm going to do is install Python, Discord Pi. I already installed it, but just to show you guys, I just run this, but it's already installed. So do that in your command line if you haven't already. So we're done with that, and now we can basically run the code. Over here, I mean, there's a very quick example, but I saw there was another example over here, which is quick start. Could I post that line? Okay, so it depends on. Here, go over here. I'll just share this link with you all. So that's for installing Discord Pi. Once you're installed, before we even want to write some code, we need to create a bot account, right? So if we look over here, very quickly, we import it. We start up a client. So this is an instance of an object. And we write some commands to describe how the bot should respond to a certain user's command. And then we run it. And so the token is what we need. This is like the authentication. And to do that, we need to create a bot account. So let's click this link over here. I'll send it to you all. And so we need this to create a sort of bot account with Discord Pi. So just follow this tutorial. I'm gonna go through it with you all. So first, make sure I'm logged in. Navigate to the application page, and then it says I have to create a new application. So let's call this tutorial. Let's call this tutorial bot. Let's create that. And then it says, it says to build a bot. So click the bot tab and then add a bot. All right, and then I have a tutorial bot. Make sure that, and then the token is, remember the token we talked about over here. It's gonna be this token that we need. So click to reveal, and I'm just gonna copy that and store it somewhere. So let me just create a Python file, and let me just quickly store this. You guys can do this later, but I'm just gonna store it right now. All right, so I stored this token, and then we have our bot. We want to invite it to our Discord server. So we go over here, OAuth, and we have to add, over here it says OAuth, click bot, and then I'm going to give it administrator permissions. I copy this, and then I'm going to run this. So I copied that code, and that code is basically a redirect to give access to the bot to my server that I own. So I own 3 servers right now: Curious, my Stephen Gong community, and the test server, which I made before the workshop. So I'm going to put the bot in the test server. So this is where we're going to test the bot's functionalities. And confirm that you want to grant, yes, I want to give it admin. And I don't really care what you guys are going to do. So usually the token, you're supposed to keep it secret, which I just showed you guys. But I don't really, over here. I mean, this token, I don't really care if you guys take my token, because I'm going to be deleting the bot afterwards. But you should keep that secret, which is why I actually put it in a separate file. But I'll show you guys actually how to hide your token later on. It's relatively simple. But for now, what I want you guys to do is create your own folder, and then create a Python file in there, call it config.py, and then store a variable name called token, and copy paste the token as a string. All right, let me just zoom in. And so in this case, you would put in your own token that you just generated. Awesome. So now our Discord bot is on our server. Wait, I have to first confirm that I'm not a robot. So let me just confirm these 2 things. Awesome. So now I just authorize access. So now if I go over to my test server, I can see that the bot is in my server now. So it just landed over here. Of course, it's not online yet because we need to run our code for it to appear online. So it's offline, but you know, we admitted the bot, into him or her or it into our custom server. All right, so that's a good first step. So far, is everyone following? Is there any questions? If you're running into any trouble, just let me know. But it's fairly straightforward. This is just ensuring that we can have our bot into a server and we can test it out. All right, if there's no questions, I assume you guys are good with that. So let's get started coding. Let me pull this out. All right, so I'm just gonna create a new file called main.py, or just call it main. And so this is where we're gonna write our main code. Okay. So if we look at the tutorial, they use something called they use the client.event. Client.event. What is the word? I forgot the word. It's not a descriptor. It's basically the at over here is it's more advanced syntax, which you might not have seen before. It's not called a descriptor. It's called a. It's not. Wait, give me a sec. I have to look this up. History. I told myself I wouldn't forget it, but I always forget the specific name. It ends with "er." Let me just look it up quickly. I know a decorator. It's called a Python decorator. That's what it's called. So this basically what a Python decorator allows us to do is we can add new functionalities to an existing object without modifying its structure. So with the at over here, we're going to use that, and we won't have to rewrite the entire code for a bot. We can simply create some simplified functions, and we only need to write a few lines of code rather than a few hundred lines of code to make sure the bot works. But in this case, they use client.event. We're going to use client.command. And what our bot is going to be able to do is respond to our specific commands. So we're going to deviate a bit from this sort of tutorial. All right. And it's the first thing we're going to do is go into our file, and we need to import Discord. Let's import Discord. And then, as I said, we're going to use commands. So we're going to from discord.extensions import commands. And then we're going to need our token. So the way we're going to extract this token is we can simply extract it from config, which is the name of the file, and we're going to import that variable, right? And to show you that it works, let's just first print the token, and let's run this python main.py. So there we go. We have the token variable that we've imported from the other file. So that's how you can import variables. You can also import your functions. You can import classes. So yeah, that's that. We don't need that right now. So first thing we're going to specify is how do we want to call our commands. So let's instantiate a client, and to create a bot, we're going to write commands.bot, and then we're going to specify the prefix for the command. And for me, I like to use the dot. So if you guys saw, I was writing dot attendance because I wrote a function called attendance, which could take the attendance of the voice channels. And to call that function, I used the prefix period or dot. You can specify that to anything you want. Some people like to use the $sign. So instead, if you wanted to call the attendance, you would use the $sign instead. But let's just stick to the period. All right. So now that we have this, we have our client. We can let's write a very simple command. And to do that, so add client dot command, and then here's the keyword async. So all the functions are going to be asynchronous, and def is to define a function, and let's define a function called hello. And it has, if you look at the documentation, it requires us to use a minimum of one argument, and that argument is going to be context, and the short version is ctx. And let me just first write this code and then explain to you guys what's happening. So if we write the command hello, we want the bot to say hello there. All right. So context is one of the required arguments for the commands. And with the context, we're going to use that to retrieve essentially in which channel was the command written, we can retrieve who wrote that command. We can retrieve if that person is in a voice channel, and we can retrieve what sort of text they wrote. And so this keyword is going to be very, very important. But I just want to show that this works. So the context in the current context, because if we look over here, we have let me pull this out. We have one text channel, right? So if I were to create another text channel, let's say general 2. Now there's two text channels. So if I wrote my command over this text channel, and let's say I wrote .hello, it won't run because I haven't started it up. But theoretically, it would reply back here because it's in this context that it wrote. In this context that I wrote this command. If I were to write it in this channel, and I wrote .hello, then the bot would answer in this channel. So that's how a bot can identify in which channel you're writing. Okay. So let's just do that one command, and we want obviously the client to run. So let's do client.run, and then we need to pass in the token. All right, and that's pretty much it. It's very simple. So let's run this. Python main.py, and so now the bot has started. And now if we go over to my test server, we can see our tutorial bot is online. And so if we were to write dot hello now, it would reply with the message. Isn't that amazing? So obviously that's pretty boring and it's not very useful, right? So what you could do is, if you wanted to, you could theoretically build a chatbot. You could like check what I said and do some if statements and say, if I say this, then send this message. And you could build some sort of chatbot that way. But I think with Discord bots, that's not really what you want to do. You want to do some things that are more useful. Let me just see if there's any questions so far. What about meme bots? Yeah, so you could build a meme bot. You can instead of sending a message, you can also send images, and you can send some reactions. So if you wanted the bot to react to a certain message, you could code that. That's totally possible. I'm not going to show you guys that today. I'm going to be focusing on the voice part. So you guys can explore. Yeah, I encourage you guys to share your creation if you want to, like how to make the bot go into the server. Yeah, so okay, I'll re-show you. So you would go over it's you simply just follow the instructions over here. Creating a bot account. So inviting your bot. So look at this section and just follow what it said. Maybe I went a little bit too fast, but go to the OAuth tab and then tick bot and then give it the permissions you want. And then you're going to use that link, copy that link, and then paste it in another tab. And then you can choose the server you want to invite the bot into. That's how it works. No problem. Okay, so as I was saying, so we saw that it works. If we write dot hello, it's going to reply hello. So now let's do something more interesting. Let's make the bot connect to our voice channel. And so let's do another command. Oh, I forgot to explain the async and the await. So you always have to put async in front of your functions to specify that it's asynchronous. So while this is running, as I said before, without the async, like it would be a single thread. So it would run, like things will not be able to run in parallel. But because Discord bot is programmed to be asynchronous, we have to specify this, and then we have to specify a wait, because this is going to take a certain amount of time. It's not going to be instantaneous, so we need to wait that this finishes to run. So we got to specify a wait in front of it. I know it's a bit difficult to wrap your head around first, but you'll get used to it. So let's make another command, client.command, and let's make it so that the bot can join our voice channel. And one thing you have to be careful is the permissions you give to your bot, because if it doesn't have the right permissions, it might not even be able to send messages. So I gave it administrator because I just didn't want to just check all the boxes, and I put it in a server that I don't really care about. So you guys are free to put whatever you want, but if you don't check the right boxes, it might not be able to do what you want it to do. So let's write a function, and it's called connect. And as always, we specify context. And so here's how we can extract the voice channel that we are in. So if I get into so there's a voice channel here. If I get into this, okay. Well, I'm I just forgot that I was in Discord, and then I clicked on the other one. Okay, I just embarrassed myself. Yes, I just Sorry. Sorry. So what I was doing, I I I I would click over here, but then I can't be in two voice channels at the same time. Oof. So now I just messed up because I don't know how I can demonstrate this. But let's say theoretically I was in this voice channel, and then I wrote some sort of command over here. So if I were to write .connect, okay. So then let's look at this let's look at this function. Let's actually code it. So we can extract the voice channel of the person who sent the command. What voice channel the person sending the command is in, and we can extract it by writing context dot message. So the message, and then we want to the message the command message, we want to extract the author first. So message dot author, and we can extract the voice channel by doing dot voice dot channel. So that's gonna give us the specific channel that the person sending the command is in. And then very simple again, we write await, and then we can write channel dot connect. Right, and if you guys run that, you will see that you first have to. You guys can't actually run that right now, but let's say you were in a voice channel and you wrote dot connect in the text channel, then the bot would join you into your voice channel. All right, so this is not. You guys can run this later on, but I'm not gonna run that right now. And yeah, I think actually before we even do the voice part, let's do the attendance part. I think would be more interesting. So this is the attendance function that I wrote for our curious Discord server to track the attendance. So again, we would do client command, and let's call a function that's called attendance. Again, we're gonna specify the context as an input argument, and it's gonna it's gonna be the same thing as the thing below. So we're gonna extract the voice channel that the person sending the command is in. So context.message voice.channel, and then one thing we can do is extract the members in the current channel, in the current voice channel, and we can do that just by doing channel.members. And so now we have the members. The members is going to be a list of all the members present in the channel. So what we want to do is iterate over this list and send it both in the chat, and in my case I want to save that into a CSV file, which is like an Excel file, so I can store that later on. So the way I'm going to do that, first let's code the thing that's going to send it in the chat. So my way of doing it is first creating an empty string, and then to create a new line, basically we can write \n, and that's creating a new line. So for each member inside of the members that are on the voice channel, we want to append to the string. And since member has different properties, we gonna first extract the name, and then we want to use this pound, and then we want to add the discriminator, member.discriminator. The discriminator is the number. If you look over here, you can actually see because I'm in streamer mode, but it would be Stephen G, and then it would be pound like 9598, I believe. So that's the 4 digits is your discriminator. And then for each member list, we want to create a new line after we're done. So to write that, we would do I think that's a backslash, right, or a forward slash. In our case, it's this slash, and then this will create a new line. And then basically it's going to do that for each member. So for each member, it's going to create a new line, and then the bot is going to send one message, and that will be, if you guys have difficulty visualizing it, it would be like a string, like let's say Steven 9493, and it'd be a new line. But a new line is going to translate into going to here, and then it's going to go for the next member's name. So let's say we have another member called John, and then we would do that. So the result would be, I'll show it to you guys. You guys saw it. I mean, it's yeah, I'm tired. I'm a bit tired, sorry guys. But the result is this. All right, so the reason I was able to, Fred was not here, but it ended up here, is because the \n was passed over here, but it doesn't print out \n. It just translates into going to a new line. So that's that. And then finally, once we're done iterating over all members, let's just context.send the member list. And yeah, that's very simple, right? And that's how you send it. Now, if you actually want to save this as a pandas or a CSV file, we can add a bit of code, and we're gonna use the date time library. So you don't have to install this; it's pre-installed. Oh my god, it's so hot in my house. When I import from datetime, import datetime, and what this is going to be able to do for us is to create, I want to be able to create a file with the name being the current date. So I take attendance every time a workshop happens, and it would be nice if it automatically could track what date the workshop was happening in. So what I'm going to do over here is to create a date. So a date, and it's a date time, and to take the current time, I just write .now, and I want to format it. So I'm going to use the string format time, and I'm just going to specify the format I want it in. So I want it to be in the day, month, and year format. Okay, and then I want to specify the directory I want to store the file in. So in my case, I want to store it inside of data, and the file is going to be called, it's going to be a data folder. So let's create that right now. Data. And then the file itself is going to be the name of the date .csv. All right, and then to write to that file, which is going to create, we use this thing called with open through name write as file, and then to write to the file, we can just do file.write, and then we can say what do we want to write to here. So in our case, we actually want to have the for loop inside of the with open, and then for the file, we're actually gonna write to the same thing. It's gonna be pretty similar, so we're just gonna do file.write and just paste this. All right, and then once we're done with that, we can just send this. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So if I run this on the same day, the file is going to be with the same date is going to be overwritten, but if it's another date, it's just going to create a different CSV file. And that's pretty much how I can track the attendance. As you can see, it's extremely simple, and I encourage you guys to try it out on your own server. But yeah, that's how you extract that's how you can track the attendance. I'm gonna take another sip of water because I'm getting really tired. What about dot help? Dot help is actually built in to it, so we don't need to build it. And in my final version, I actually did not write the help function. It's built in, and what it does is it enumerates all the commands that we can use for a bot, and it explains to us what we can do with these commands. How do we connect the Python file to the bot? So all you have to do is run the wait, let me just end this. All you need to do is run this file, and it's gonna automatically take care. Oops, what happened here? If you run this file, it's gonna automatically the APIs are gonna automatically take care of the rest. It's gonna connect everything, and the reason it's gonna work is because we have this token. So with this token, we're gonna run it, and then it's an API, right? The Discord Pi. So you're gonna run it, and then Discord Pi is gonna check that your token actually works, and if it does work, it's gonna authenticate into the Discord server if you have the right permissions, and your bot you're gonna see your bot go online. That's how it works. So that's the reason why it's so simple to work with Discord Pi. Like you hook it up once, and you just need to write your functions. And one thing though is that because right now these stuff are hosted locally, if you don't run your code, your bot is not going to be online. So the commands you write when you're not running this code will not work. You must be running this code. You must run the Python file if you want your bot to go online and actually respond to the commands. All right, so that's one thing. The second thing we're gonna do is mess around with the voice channel. So we coded the part where we can make the bot connect. So now we want to make the bot actually play audio, which is actually a more interesting part, I think, than just simply connecting it. So this is actually quite complex. And before version 1, so a few years ago, there's actually a simple function to play from a YouTube link, but they unfortunately removed that functionality. So now we have to write many more lines of code to do the same things. Fortunately, I have that figured out for you guys, so we're gonna still be able to do it, but we're gonna need some more code. And I don't want us to write the entire thing, so I'm gonna copy some of the template code, and I want you guys just to paste it inside of your Python file. So give me a second, and I will paste it over here. Let me switch to French. So I sent it in workshop. These are basically the YouTube specifications if you want to be able to run it. If you want to be the voice bot to play MP3 from a YouTube link. So I'm also going to copy this and paste it. And again, you don't need to worry about it, but these are just like some parameters, and then they built this class, and we don't really need to worry about this, but these things were handled before, but now we have to write it in our own code. But we don't need to worry about how it actually works. So with that out of the way, let's actually specify how we can play audio. So far what I've shown you guys is simply we write dot and we write the name of the function, correct? But now I'm going to show you guys that we can also pass in different arguments. So the way we do that is, let's first specify add client dot command, and then let's call our function play. So always the first argument is going to be context, but then the second one is going to be arguments. In our case, the argument is going to be an URL. And with that argument, we will write this function, an asynchronous function. And so context of typing is basically it's going to show that the bot is searching for. It's going to show the name of your bot typing something. So that's what this is going to do. And so this way we know that the code is running in the background. It's pretty nice. So await YouTube DL source from URL. So this is the class we pasted over here, and then we can basically take the MP3 from a URL. So this function was written for us, but essentially just extracts the info. It's going to download it inside locally, and it's going to stream it using FFmpeg. We might actually run into some errors. I believe we also have to install FFmpeg and maybe even YouTube _DL. So let me know if you guys are running into an error when you run that code. But anyways, YouTube DL from URL, and then your URL is simply going to be the argument. And then this is just another parameter that we need to specify. And then to make the bot actually play the audio, we're gonna extract the voice client, so the voice bot, and we're gonna simply play the source. And so we're gonna play the player, so the player is specified over here. Again, a bunch of like most of all template code that we don't really need to worry about. But this is the code that's gonna make our code works, you know. And then this is a lambda. Print player error. So we're gonna. This is just specify if we run into error, what do they say? Error. %E if there's an error, just show the error, else don't do anything. And then let's just, we're also going to send a text message to say now it's playing the actual video that from the URL. So let's just do context.send, and now let's write now playing. And this is a very cool way to specify a variable within a string. So you can do the string.format player.title. So basically this variable will be put into here. This is the same thing as saying now playing plus player.title. It's the same thing, but I think this is just a bit cleaner. You can also do, there's a third way, which is doing the F string, which I showed you guys. I think I showed you guys, right? Pretty sure I showed you guys the F string. The F string. Yeah, over here. So this is the F string. So we can also do it the F string way, and then just pass the variable inside of the quotation marks. Well, not the curly brackets, and then we could also do it this way. So we have two ways of doing it, but I'm just gonna use the dot format. Awesome. And yeah, we're pretty much done. Let's do a final command, which is disconnecting, because we don't want our bot to be in a verse channel forever. And it's gonna be the same thing over here, very similar to this one. So we take our voice client from our context. Let's call it disconnect context, and then it's very simple. Just do away context dot voice client dot disconnect. And let's say we want to close our bot, like we're done with the bot. Let's just call it close. And context dot send. Let's just notify the user that we're closing the bot. And then in this case, we're just gonna do await client dot close. And that's how you close. So once this code is ran, your Python script is just gonna stop running, and then the bot is gonna go offline. So yeah, these are a bunch of commands that you guys can use. These are like template commands. Actually over here, before we end the workshop quickly, we actually need to install YouTube DL. So this is what's going to allow us to play links from YouTube. I have it installed, so let me just import it. Do I have it installed? I think I have it installed on my MacBook, but yeah, I don't have it on my computer. So it's very simple. I think it's pip install YouTube underscore DL. Yeah, over here. So this is the command you guys need to use if you want to play YouTube MP3 from your YouTube from a YouTuber URL. And I'm just gonna run that in my terminal. So pip install YouTube DL. And there we go, we've installed it. And oops, that's the wrong. Over here. So we've imported it, and now there's no more error. So as you guys can see, I mean, the code is pretty self-explanatory. Once you get the hang of it, you can do a lot of other things. Mostly, if you want to, learn how do you, for example, send in an image, just look at the documentation. And the way I learned this is, sometimes let's say I wanted to do a specific thing, I just wrote for Discord Pi, and then I wrote what I wanted to do. But I wouldn't encourage that sort of behavior. Actually, I would encourage you to look more into the documentation, try to understand how the code actually works. So over here, for example, if my explanation of context wasn't clear enough for you, and you want to see what other sort of parameters you can extract, well, you can go over here and you can find the documentation. And as I've said before, every command must take at least a single parameter called the context, and then you can extract information from the context. And so I showed you guys context.message, I showed you guys context.author, and I showed you guys the main ones. But if you actually want to see more about it, you can see here what sort of parameters you can extract from this. And let's say you wanted to know more about, voice, and you have all these. Let me see if I can find the exact one I used. For example, believe it's over here. So yeah, voice. And then you can just look through it. So over here, yeah, this is actually where I learned about how, the voice, how do you connect a Discord bot to the voice channel. You can look over here, and then I know it's a bit confusing at first, but you have some sort of example, and there's some explanations as to the parameters, and you can just read through it and try to better understand everything. But for a beginner, it can get very confusing. So in that case, I would encourage you to look through some videos. Again, it depends on the sort of library you're using. But that's pretty much it for the tutorial. Again, I'm not gonna run it, well, because I actually can't. I'm gonna run it, but I won't be able to join the voice channel since I'm already in here with you guys, and I don't want to leave again accidentally. But I mean, if you run python main.py, all these commands are gonna work. You're getting an error. Here are the first few lines of my code. If not, I also have a repository for you guys with all the information, all the code, so you guys can just clone my GitHub repo in case you miscopy something. So yeah, I mean, my goal with this workshop was just, show you guys how you can code a Discord bot. You guys are free to, create your own twist. So one thing with the YouTube URL thing is right now it just takes a URL. So you would write dot play space, and then you'd copy the URL. But one thing that would be more interesting is if you could be able to take in, just type in a title and make it so that your bot can do a YouTube search, and then return the first link that appears and play that first link. Oops. That's one idea. You guys can maybe create some sort of meme generator. So you can do like .meme, and then it chooses random meme from your database. There's a bunch of cool ideas you guys can experiment with. I just showed you what I've learned when I wanted to build my own Discord bot. It's really not that complex. It's like about 100. Oh my god! Can you stop? It's about 100 lines of code. So it's not the most not the most complicated code in the world. Definitely can build a more complex bot. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this workshop. Is there any questions regarding Discord bot before we move on to just concluding the learnathon and being sad and just talking about what the future of this Discord server is gonna bring? And it's gonna take like around 10 more minutes, but then we're gonna be done. There's no more questions. I'm gonna stop recording, and then we'll talk into more about the learnathon. Yeah, I'll send the link to the repository. Alright, if there's no more questions, then I'm gonna stop recording.